ladies and gentlemen. Imagine this a silent night, a weary soul and a heart burdened by pain. Darkness surrounds you, and it feels like no one understands, no one cares. But let me tell you today, God was watching them. Yes, even in the silence, even in the storm, even in the shadow of despair, he was there. The omniscient presence. From the beginning of time, God's watchful gaze has been upon his creation, a constant reminder that no matter where we are never truly alone. His presence is not limited by geography, circumstance, or the walls we build around our hearts. He sees it all, the moments of triumph when we stand tall and the moments of despair when we crumble to our knees. He watches us with the eyes of a loving father, not with judgment, but with compassion, understanding every tear we shed and every unspoken fear we carry. When life feels overwhelming and the weight of the world presses down on us, we might ask, does anyone see what I'm going through? The answer is a resounding yes, God sees. He sees the struggles we don't share, the silent battles fought in the quiet of our minds and the pain hidden behind forced smiles. His vision is not clouded by the mask we wear or the facades we create. He sees us for who we truly are, flawed, broken, yet deeply loved. God's watchfulness is not passive. He is not a distant observer standing idly by. His gaze is active, filled with purpose and intention. He watches not to catch us. Trials as divine tests. Life has a way of presenting us with moments that feel overwhelming, moments when the weight of our struggles seems unbearable and we question the very purpose of it all. In those moments, it's easy to think we are being punished, abandoned, or left to figure it out on our own. But the truth is, every trial we face carries a purpose far greater than we can understand in the moment. These challenges are not arbitrary obstacles placed in our path. They are divine tests, carefully designed to strengthen us, mold us, and refine us into who we are meant to become. Imagine a piece of raw gold. In its natural state, it doesn't shine, it doesn't reflect the beauty it holds within. To reach its full potential, that gold must endure the fire. It must be heated, melted down, and purified so that all impurities are removed. The process is intense, even painful, but it is necessary for the gold to become what it was created to be. Similarly, the trials we endure are the fires that refine us. They strip away the layers of doubt, fear, and insecurity, exposing the strength, resilience, and faith that have been inside us all along. Every great story of triumph is rooted in a moment of struggle. Look at the lives of those who have achieved greatness. Not one of them walked an easy path. Their victories were born from valleys of difficulty, where they had to confront their limitations, push beyond their comfort zones, and trust in something greater than themselves. These moments of testing are where character is built and faith is deepened. They are the crucible in which purpose is forged. What we often fail to recognize is that trials are not meant to destroy us, but to prepare us. The challenges we face today are equipping us for the battles of tomorrow. They teach us lessons we wouldn't learn in comfort, give us strength we didn't know we had, and reveal the power of God working within us. When we're in the middle of the test, it can feel as though the struggle has no end, as though we've been forgotten. But those moments are not signs of abandonment. They are proof that we are being prepared for something greater. Trials also reveal what we are made of. Just as a test in school measures our understanding, divine tests reveal the strength of our faith. They expose areas where we need to grow, challenge us to trust in God's plan, and remind us that we cannot do it alone. It is in these moments that we realize our true dependence on Him, and that dependence is what brings us closer to His purpose for our lives. Faith over fear. Fear is a universal emotion, a response that arises when we encounter the unknown, face challenges beyond our control, or wrestle with thoughts that threaten to consume us. It sneaks into our hearts like an unwelcome visitor, planting seeds of doubt, hesitation, and insecurity. Fear whispers, you can't do this, you're not strong enough, and what if it all goes wrong? But in the midst of that chaos, faith stands as a powerful force, a shield that can silence the lies of fear and remind us of the truth we often forget. We are never walking this path alone. Faith is not the absence of fear, it is the courage to move forward despite it. It's the belief that even when the odds are stacked against us, there is a greater power at work, a power that sees what we cannot see and knows what we cannot understand. Faith transforms our perspective. Where fear sees a closed door, faith sees an opportunity. Where fear sees failure, faith sees growth. Where fear sees darkness, faith sees the first glimmer of light. Fear thrives on uncertainty. It grows when we focus on what we don't know, what we can't control, and what we think might go wrong. But faith shifts our focus. It pulls our eyes away from the problem and directs them toward the promise. It reminds us that the God who created the universe, who calms the seas and sets the stars in place, is the same God who holds our lives in his hands. Faith calls us to trust, not because we have all the answers, but because we believe in the one who does. Faith is a daily choice, a deliberate decision to let go of what we fear and hold on to what we believe. It is not always easy. There will be moments when fear feels overwhelming, when doubt clouds our vision and makes us question if we're on the right path. But even then, faith doesn't require us to have perfect clarity. It asks only for a mustard seed, a tiny, seemingly insignificant spark of belief that, when nurtured, has the power to move mountains. Fear often paralyzes us, keeping us from taking the steps we need to fulfill our purpose. It whispers that the risk is too great, that failure is inevitable, and that we are not capable. Faith, on the other hand, empowers us to act. It gives us the strength to take that first step, even when the road ahead is unclear. It reminds us that we don't have to see the whole staircase to take the next step, and it assures us that we are not walking alone. In the face of fear, faith becomes our anchor. It grounds us when the storms of life threaten to sweep us away. It steadies us when doubt shakes our foundation. It reminds us that no matter how strong the winds of fear may blow, the promises of God are stronger still. Faith equips us to rise above the lies of fear and to step into the truth of who we are and what we were created to do. The role of perspective. Perspective is one of the most powerful tools we have in navigating the challenges of life. It shapes how we see our circumstances, how we interpret our struggles, and ultimately how we respond to the obstacles in our path. Two people can face the same situation and emerge with entirely different experiences, all because of the lens through which they viewed it. Perspective is not just about what we see, it's about how we choose to see it. When we face trials and difficulties, our natural inclination is often to focus on the problem itself. We zero in on what's wrong, what's missing, and what's not going the way we expected. This narrow view magnifies the problem, making it seem larger than life, overwhelming and insurmountable. It's easy to get trapped in a cycle of negativity where every thought is colored by frustration, doubt, or despair. But what if we shifted our perspective? What if, instead of focusing on what's wrong, we began to see the possibilities hidden within the problem? That perspective doesn't change the reality of what we're going through, but it changes how we experience it. A storm can be seen as a destructive force, uprooting everything in its path, or as a necessary process that clears away the old and makes room for new growth. A setback can be seen as a failure or as a stepping stone to something greater. When we view our struggles through a spiritual lens, we begin to understand that every challenge carries within it an opportunity for growth, transformation, and renewal. The story of a caterpillar comes to mind. To the outside world, the cocoon may seem like a place of confinement, darkness, and limitation, but to the caterpillar, it is a place of transformation. What looks like the end is actually the beginning of something extraordinary. This is the power of perspective, to see beyond the immediate pain and struggle and to recognize the greater purpose at work. Perspective also reminds us to take a step back and view our lives as part of a bigger picture. In the moment, a single challenge may feel like the defining event of our story, but when we zoom out, we begin to see it as just one chapter in a much larger narrative. Every high and low, every joy and sorrow is a thread in the tapestry of our lives. And just as an artist sees the beauty in the contrast of light and shadow, so too can we find meaning in both the triumphs and the trials. It's important to remember that perspective is a choice. We cannot always control our circumstances, but we can control how we respond to them. When we choose to see our struggles as opportunities rather than obstacles, we empower ourselves to rise above them. Perspective gives us the strength to see failure as a teacher, loss as a reminder of what truly matters, and uncertainty as a chance to trust in something greater than ourselves. Moreover, perspective can transform not only how we see ourselves, but also how we see others. When we broaden our view, we begin to recognize that everyone carries their own burdens, fights their own battles, and walks their own path. This understanding fosters empathy, compassion, and a deeper connection with those around us. It reminds us that we are not alone in our struggles and that together we can find strength and hope. In every situation, perspective acts as the compass that guides us through life's challenges. It shapes our attitude, influences our decisions, and ultimately determines whether we see ourselves as victims of circumstance or as overcomers, capable of finding purpose and meaning even in the midst of difficulty. Hope in divine timing. Timing is everything. It governs the rhythm of our lives from the smallest moments to the grandest events. Yet one of the greatest sources of frustration and anxiety we experience is the feeling that things aren't happening when we want them to. And we live in a world that thrives on immediacy, instant answers, instant solutions, and instant gratification. But the truth is, life often unfolds on a timeline far beyond our control, and that timeline is governed by divine timing. Divine timing operates on a plane of wisdom and purpose that surpasses our human understanding. It's not bound by the constraints of clocks and calendars, and it doesn't always align with our expectations or desires. There are moments when we pray fervently, wait patiently, and still feel like nothing is happening. We wonder if we've been forgotten, if our dreams have been dismissed, or if our prayers have gone unheard. But the delay is not a denial, it is often a deliberate act of preparation. Hope in divine timing requires trust that there is a plan even when we can't see it. It's the understanding that just as seeds take time to grow beneath the soil before they break through to the surface, so too do our dreams and desires require time to mature. A farmer doesn't plant a seed and expect a harvest the next day. He knows there's a process, a season of growth, a time for nurturing, and a moment for fruition. Similarly, every delay, every pause, every moment of waiting in our lives serves a purpose, even if it's not immediately apparent. In the waiting, we are being shaped and prepared. The time between the promise and the fulfillment is not wasted, it is a season of growth. It's where we develop patience, resilience, and faith. It's where we learn to rely not on our own understanding, but on God's guidance. It's where we discover that the journey itself is as important as the destination. The waiting teaches us to appreciate the blessings we often take for granted, to find joy in the process, and to trust that what is meant for us will not pass us by. Divine timing also protects us. There are moments when we feel ready for something only to realize later that we weren't. A blessing given too soon can become a burden. Just as a skilled conductor knows the right moment for each instrument to play in harmony, so too does God know the perfect time for events to unfold in our lives. He sees what we cannot see, the challenges ahead, the opportunities that are yet to come, and the lessons we still need to learn. Hope in divine timing is a quiet confidence that everything will come together at the right moment. It's the belief that even in the delays, there is purpose. And when a door remains closed, it's not always because we are unworthy or incapable. Sometimes it's because there is a better door waiting to be opened. And when the door finally opens, we begin to understand why we had to wait. The pieces fall into place, and we see that the timing was not just right, it was perfect. Patience in divine timing is not passive, it's active. It's a daily choice to keep moving forward, to keep believing, and to keep preparing for what's to come. It's about using the waiting period to grow, to learn, and to align ourselves with God's plan. Hope in divine timing is what allows us to remain steadfast, even when the journey feels long, even when the answers seem distant, and even when the road ahead is unclear. It's a trust that is rooted not in what we see, but in the assurance that God's timing is never late, never early, but always right on time. Victory through worship. There is a power in worship that transcends human understanding, a power that lifts the spirit, breaks the chains of negativity, and opens the door to victory. And worship is not just a ritual or a song, it is a declaration of faith, a proclamation of trust in God's sovereignty, and an act of surrender that aligns our hearts with His will. When life feels overwhelming and the weight of our burdens threatens to crush us, worship becomes our weapon, a weapon not of this world but of the Spirit, capable of shifting the atmosphere and bringing peace to even the most chaotic situations. The worship is not confined to a specific place or moment. It is not reserved for Sunday mornings or special occasions. Worship is a posture of the heart, an intentional decision to focus not on our problems, but on the greatness of God. It is an act of defiance against the negativity that seeks to consume us, a choice to lift our eyes above our circumstances and fix them on the one who is greater than anything we face. Worship reminds us that no matter how big the storm, the God we serve is bigger still. In the darkest moments of life, worship has the power to transform our perspective. It takes our focus off of what we lack and places it on the abundance of God's provision. It shifts our mindset from despair to hope, from fear to faith, and from defeat to victory. Our worship doesn't deny the reality of our struggles, it acknowledges them while declaring that they do not have the final say. It is a reminder that even in the valley of the shadow of death, God is with us, guiding us, strengthening us, and leading us to victory. And worship also connects us to the presence of God in a way that few other things can. It is in the act of worship that we encounter His peace, His power, and His promises. When we worship, we create space for God to move in our lives, to speak to our hearts, and to work in ways we cannot see. Worship opens the door for His presence to fill the room, bringing with it a sense of comfort, reassurance, and strength that surpasses all understanding. It is in worship that we are reminded of who God is and who we are in Him. Victory through worship is not about the absence of struggles, but about the triumph of faith over fear, joy over sorrow, and hope over despair. When we worship, we declare that our circumstances do not define us and that our trust is in a God who is faithful, unchanging, and all-powerful. Worship is not a reaction to how we feel. It is a response to who God is. It is choosing to praise Him in the middle of the storm, to lift our hands when we feel like giving up, and to sing songs of gratitude even when the answers to our prayers have not yet come. Worship is an act of spiritual warfare. It confuses the enemy, disrupts his plans, and breaks the chains of negativity that seek to bind us. When we worship, we align ourselves with the truth of God's word, declaring His promises over our lives and rejecting the lies that try to take root in our hearts. Worship is a powerful reminder that the battle is not ours to fight alone. It is a declaration that the victory has already been won through Christ, and no weapon formed against us shall prosper. Through worship, we draw strength from the God who is the source of all power. It is in worship that we find the courage to keep going, the faith to keep believing, and the hope to keep trusting. Worship is a lifeline in the midst of life's storms, a constant reminder that we are not alone and that God is working all things together for our good. It is an act of surrender, a step of faith, and a proclamation of victory that invites God's presence into every aspect of our lives.